I'm asking you to unmute.
I've unmuted.
Got
Hello.
it. Good morning. Hey,
Yeah, guy.
hold on. Not a
yeah, guy.
hold
Come
on.
on. Come on.
Hold on, guy. We've been telling people obviously about this delicious beverage, Athletic Greens, and
Yes.
how it benefits our lives.
Yes.
But I feel we need to break down not only how it benefits our lives, we need to give them reset what exactly it is. athleticgreens.com/surf. Not only are they a sponsor of the show, but it is a all-in-one superfood powder with all of your nutritional essentials. One tasty scoop. It has 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more. Essentially fills in the gaps of your diet, increases energy and focus, aids with digestion, and supports a healthy immune system, all without the need to take multiple products or pills. Scott.
Look, you and I know that health is important as we move through life. Health is a dynamic. So Athletic Greens has created a comprehensive formula that helps you, David, and me adapt as our daily needs change due to stress, sleep patterns, and my imperfect diet. So my daily dose of Athletic Greens is like nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/surf.
We sound like a couple of professionals.
I love my Athletic Greens, dude. I'm a big fan.
I love it too. Completely. I was on the road last week and I find my diet's always messed up, obviously, when you're on the road. Timing, scheduling, and then of course different foods. But that's one thing that you can do that keeps it consistent.
You know what's amazing is that everything is messed up when you go on the road. Like beyond, like my morning prayer, my morning meditation, my diet. Like there's so many things that every single one of us is disrupted because of that. It seems like there's a business there somehow, like none of us can get our routine dialed in, and maybe it's an impossible thing to ask, but
I think about that with pro surfers, the ones who can create a home environment on the road and bring their home kind of from place to place have a tremendous advantage. And I think that's a lot of Kelly Slater's success over the years is he's at home most on the road.
Yeah, you're right. And that's just like, I'm assuming that's just an experience thing. Like the more you do it, the more you kind of know how to do it.
And I think for him specifically, it was staying with people on the road, staying with friends who become family over the course of a decade. That's a huge advantage over some new rookie who just gets on tour and is staying in hotels,
That might be also why you hear so many people froth about Tahiti as one of their favorite stops on tour, because it is kind of like everyone's coming home for a little bit.
Yeah, because they stay with other families. Yeah. Well, call us in.
Yeah, Guy, welcome everybody. It is Spit. We talk surfing. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass. David Scales, if you prefer, no middle name. And it is Wednesday, July 14th. And man, we got a lot going on in the world of surf. The Olympics are coming up, David. Just next week is the kickoff of the Olympic Games. And everything seems to be focused towards, at least in our little subcultural sphere, with Olympic surfing. So we got that, and there's some great south swell in the water here along the Pacific coastline, all the way from, Colombia, actually probably all the way down from like Chile up to Alaska. That seems to be south swell in the water.
What's the Olympic forecast looking like?
Wave pools, baby. I don't know. Let me look. I did a podcast with Sean Thompson yesterday, and he was telling me that Matt Biolis is claiming there's going to be a typhoon, which is just, okay, yeah, we're all hoping for that. But I think I mentioned last week when you and I were speaking that I've been watching, and I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to pull up Storm Surf, but I've been watching some of the low pressure, sort of like the overlying, what's happening with sort of that side of the globe regarding low pressures. And there were some things that spun off that didn't turn into anything, but had the potential to turn it. Like it wasn't completely like placid and, benign. So let's take a peek here.
While you're looking it up, when you chatted to Sean, did you talk about his new book?
Well, I don't think so. What's it called? I don't remember talking about a book. Maybe, the thing about Sean is that he's always got like a series of notes. You can see him like cheating over to his notes. So he's probably talking about his book, but didn't mention the title of his book. Oh my God, I've got a friggin' typhoon. I've got a typhoon.
Hold on. Let me finish the joke. I was setting you up there. I got a DM from a listener. It's going to take me a second to find it. Yeah, yesterday he goes, hey, the Duke of the Year goes to Scott for interviewing Jim Kempton while he's on his book tour without realizing he was interviewing somebody on their book tour.
I did not know. I had no idea. I swear to God.
So no, Sean does not have a book. I was just trying to make a callback to Jim Kempton. And then he said the funny thing is, it's a great interview. Jim must have been thinking, when is he going to ask about my book? But it lasted for over an hour.
No, he totally did. It was the funniest thing ever. Like I literally went, well, Jim, gosh, we've covered a lot here today. It's been great talking to you. And he goes, well, what about the book? And I go, what book? I had no idea there was a book.
Great interview nonetheless.
Hey, so here's what's interesting. I'm looking. So according to Storm Surf, which is my go-to for low pressure, which is what makes waves, there's a typhoon this Saturday. A typhoon forms on Friday. There's a massive typhoon Saturday, and it runs right into the southern tip of, I guess, what is Japan. I don't know that region very well, but for sure moves into the South China Sea. And it looks like Korea is going to get slammed. And then something else forms behind it on the 21st, which would be a week from today.
So, what does,
there's two back-to-back storms that are wave generating storms.
I'm not familiar with typhoon surf personally. Does that, it sounds like a storm essentially. And a storm, yeah. And that doesn't always mean good surf, right? It could be out of control. The conditions have to really align.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, for the Olympics, you'll take anything. Like, okay,
sure,
it's 6 foot and blown out. But I don't know. Would you rather have 6 foot, 25 knot onshores or 1 to 2 feet?
Well, I don't know. What is the beach that they're doing the contest at? What does it handle?
I don't know. I'm not, that's a question for Surfline. I've surfed there. I've been there. And it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
Shitty Sheeta Beach. It's got the greatest name for a beach.
Well, we'll see if it lives up to its name or not. So John Florence is all but confirmed to be going. All signs are go for him. So that's kind of an update. Kelly will not be competing, obviously, as a result of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, how does it, I guess the question would be who does one surf benefit and who does 6 foot typhoon surf benefit?
Well, I think the answer to that question is sort of not an answer to that question, because what we do know is there are surfers in this competition that it does not matter what the waves are like. They're going to be in the contention. And that's, Gabe, John, Idolo, the ones that we know travel around the world for a living and surf in all sorts of conditions. And regardless of what it's like, they absolutely are heads and tails above the rest of the field regarding talent, skill, and experience.
I disagree. John is not in that conversation. John's in the conversation if the waves are big, but no, 1 foot Japan, I would absolutely give it to the Brazilians.
Well, I'm not saying I didn't say John. I'm telling you that
you did. You said Gabe, John, and Idolo would be prepared for any conditions. I'm saying those two are prepared for any conditions. John's prepared for certain conditions.
How many world titles has John won?
2.
3? 2. Should have had 3. Probably should have 4, except for 2 injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
You're telling me that a 2-time world champion isn't prepared to surf in any conditions and do well?
No,
that he doesn't have air game. But he's not.
He has air game. He has air game. He just doesn't have small wave game. 1 to 2 foot. Gabe,
I didn't say he's going to win. I said he's going to be prepared for those conditions.
Gabe and Idolo far. You would not put any money on John.
That. Yeah. Now you're tweaking what we're saying here. I'm saying that John Florence is a professional surfer.
Totally.
He's prepared for any conditions.
Yeah. But I said,
This is what he does for a
who
living,
does
and he's
the
proven
original
it
question
twice with 2 world titles.
But the original question is who's going to benefit from the 1 foot surf and who's going to benefit from the 6 foot typhoon surf? And the answer is in both scenarios, Brazilian, Gabe and Idolo.
Okay, so what you're saying is John doesn't hold a candle to those guys in small waves, which is true. I don't know if you know.
But you know who he's got as his sparring partner or his teammate?
Kaloe,
who does thrive in those small waves.
Well, look, who's the gold medalist is going to be my friend and yours. What's that kid's name? Otara. What's that Japanese?
Hiroto Ohara.
Hiroto. Friggin' Hiroto is going to throw some rotos in those 1 to 2 footers. And
I'd be okay with that. I mean, honestly, it'd be pretty amazing if Japan won gold at the Olympics.
Yeah, I would like to
fitting.
see him. Something. Part of me is like, I'd like to see him steal the thunder from Kanoa. I don't know why. I don't know why I say that, but there's something in my heart that's like, probably because he's getting so overshadowed by Kanoa that it'd be kind of fitting to have this kid just kind of come up and snap victory.
So Huntington Beach is a good comparison. The U.S. Open, and Hiroto has won a U.S. Open. Kanoa's won 2, but Hirota has won 1. So
he's got it in him. He's got it in him.
If you're running those stats, that'd be an argument for him. He does have it in him. I haven't seen him surf in quite a while though.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, he just won. Didn't he like win, or he didn't win, but he qualified for this thing in El Salvador. I mean, he's on his game. I mean, we're going to assume that he's on his game. And
what do you know about the format for the comp?
Not much. I really don't know much about it, to be honest. I'm not that engaged in competitive surfing that I'm gonna. This is your expertise. You're the guy that follows the QS Warriors and knows all about what you tell me. You're too busy to know, huh? You're like me. You're busy.
Well, I'm good friends actually with the contest director, Eric Kramer, as well. And that's exactly what his responsibility is that sort of stuff. And I have failed you and our listeners by not reaching out. But I'll be honest, the reason why I haven't is because it doesn't really interest me that much. Like when I have tried to track the ISA, and Stab actually did write an article about this. I open it up and I scan through it and I'm just like, wow, that is so convoluted and confusing.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of like check in along the way. It almost, which is kind of shocking. I started out by saying I failed you, but the reality is they've kind of lost me. I'm a core fan and I want to engage, and they've made it so confusing that it feels like I'm going to have to sit down and do a math assignment.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is that you and I've spoken about this for a long time, that surfing competition needs a disruptor. It needs disruption. And the WSL is trying, and, you know, like they're doing some stuff, or at least, or maybe they're not. But my point is that for sure the ISA is stuck in like 3 to the beach mentality that we were doing in 1972. You know, like there's no like, you know, there's just, it's so ripe for somebody to go, you guys, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, you know, but
I think Brad,
there's a lot of
Gerlach used to do, or he made an effort to do what he was calling the game. And Red Bull has had tremendous success with one-off events like the Cape Fear event. And the success of those is highlighting the spectacle, you know, like not getting caught up in the mire of, I don't know, the formality and the all, as like, it's just a spectacle, and that's what's fun. And when you do it in the right waves, it's very obvious who the winner is. So all of the mire that is judging and the subjectivity of it and trying to identify the difference between a 6'5" and a 6'7", all of that gets solved. But when you're in when you're in big treacherous surf,
you've been preaching this for a long time, and it's so obvious, but you're absolutely right. I mean, and you always use the UFC model, and I think that's it. I mean, I guarantee you, David, you and I both know, and I would suggest to you that 99.9% of surf consumers would sign up for 4 of the world's best surfers in 3 hours at a Kandui lefts.
Yeah, of course.
Like, we would be like, yeah. And okay, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a world champion didn't get decided there. But you know what got us fired up was watching these guys try to highline it and weave through one of the fastest, gnarliest lefts in the world. It's super challenging. That really shows who's got game in the tube. I mean, that's like the ideal wave. I've been front and center on a boat in competition, watching competition there, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I just remember Shane Dorian just absolutely going bonkers out there.
And the other great thing about that for the consumer is it's very hard for me to schedule, a full week of watching a WSL competition that maybe it'll get called on Monday, maybe it'll get called off. So my whole week is just kind of, ultimately, I don't commit to the WSL and I just try to squeeze it in throughout my day. In the thing that you just explained, that's a 3-hour window. I could lock everything off in my life for 3 hours to sit down, pay the $50 or whatever the price is, and watch that. And it's a better viewing experience, obviously, as well.
Well, the one issue you do have there from like a mainstream North American audience is the time difference, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I'll wake up and watch the feed or whatever,
I've gotten up at midnight to watch J-Bay when it is, when it's not even guaranteed to be on, and there's going to be 8 hours of competition,
Gnarly. Wow. Well, I guess it kind of blows our mind that somebody hasn't picked this up and run with it, and part of it is the WSL won't let you have their competitors. That doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Let's take Asher Pacey and Creed McTaggart and whoever,
Well, Stab's making an effort with their Surf 100 or whatever, a couple other things that they do. So that's good. But that isn't their main business. It's not like they're trying to run a competition circuit. I've got a question though. So kind of what we're saying about the ISA making it like a math project. That would indicate that even if the waves are pumping, that there is still going to be an element of boredom on display strictly because of the structure of the event. Does the structure of the event undermine any potential kind of excitement?
Well, yes, it does. But one thing's for sure is that you and I as end consumers aren't going to see any of that. If we're lucky, we might see the final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be boiled down NBC, and all of that's going to be determined on the fly as their producers or the directors go, hey, you know what? We've got Simone Biles is about to go crazy in the Olympics, and we got track and field that's going Richter. And oh my God, we've got a story developing in canoeing that's mind blowing. And the waves are 1 foot and it's gray and onshore and it's kind of miserable looking. It's not the sunny, beautiful kind of surf scene we were hoping for to show the mainstream audience. And
that's a good point.
Surfing is not going to be front center it's just going to be a little highlights package. You're probably lucky to even see the gold medal awarded.
Good. That's what I prefer. Give me a highlights package. I'll try to track it on Instagram behind the scenes. I wonder too, do they not have an online experience, NBC, for us to watch the individual sports?
I'm sure that they do. I'm sure there's some sort of app or something.
Yeah.
But you're dealing with a lot of different stakeholders, regarding who gets to view what and who gets the rights to what. And the IOC is this mammoth thing that's like, just super patriarchal and just super like, authoritarian and how things get delegated and all that stuff's been worked out. But I mean, it's not like you or I have seen anything coming out of the USA Olympic press offices saying, hey, here's how you can watch all the action live.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like that? I haven't. Maybe it's out there, but
no,
I think you and I would get an email from somebody,
yeah,
because I know I'm on their list.
Let me ask you this final question on the Olympics that I have anyways. How patriotic are you for the surf team USA?
Well, I'm very patriotic for USA. And for instance, I just happened to stumble across the steeplechase, the women's steeplechase qualifier, right? And there's 15 USA women running, trying to get the last 2 spots or whatever to make the team. And they're running on this big track and they're jumping over this thing and they're landing in water and they're running and people are eating shit and falling and people's dreams are dying right there. And I got teary-eyed when the 2 girls, passed another and made it. And I mean, it's obvious that they've spent their entire lives for this moment. And that's, I forget your original question, but
well, how patriotic are you
patriotic.
about USA surfing though? Surfing specifically.
Well, what's weird is that because there's this whole like, oh, we're a tribe, surfers don't really even have borders. And the USA team never really rallies around their riders the way Brazilians or even Australians do. You never see, Chloe and Dino with American flag waving it, hoping that, I don't know.
You do see Kaloa, you just don't see you and I down at the beach with him waving a flag.
Well, my point is that it's not, I don't sense that it's such a weird thing, right? Like there's so much individualism baked into our culture and into the way we're brought up. Like, I don't know. And surfing's just not a team thing. I mean, I know there's a lot of individual sports in this. I don't know.
It's funny.
I'm much more looking forward to Simone Biles, to track and field, to sort of the standard Olympic things, because I don't sense that the surfers are really patriotic. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
I think when you talk about steeple, what is it, chasing?
I don't know. I've never seen it before, but it was amazing.
Well, so for that, I would automatically root for an American because I know nothing about the sport. I know nothing about the people. I can't even tell who's really better at it probably than the other. So yeah, I'll just root for American because that's my team.
Yeah.
But with surfing, I really just want the best surfer to win, to be honest. And when you started talking about Hiroto Ohara, and Kanoa, I'm like, yeah, I've seen both of them surf here locally. I like both of their, or certainly Hiroto's personality. I loved when he won the US Open. And so like, I get that. And I'm okay rooting for that. And the Brazilians I love because I've seen their prowess, is so dominant in so many other spots that I can root for them. And I can root for Kaloe and John because there's certain aspects of them that I like, but I'm really almost divorced from my patriotism because I have all these other data points to pull from,
Yeah, another part of what you're describing too is the fact that our culture is such a globe-trotting culture. In other words, Hiroto probably spent 4 months in Huntington Beach, before the US Open or whatever. And we all go on trips and we run into boats full of Portuguese and Israelis and Brazilians and Hawaiians and we're all sort of intermixed, and it's just the nature of our culture to be that way. There's a lot of travel. Now, women's steeplechase, they're in Ohio running for 8 years. They never get out, you know what I mean? Like they never get outside of the borders to go. I'm sure there's a couple of international meets here or there. I don't know. But it's not like our sport where we're all just kind of like, for lack of a better phrase, which is, I'm going to make you vomit a little bit, but we're this tribe, So anyway, that might be part of it.
Yeah, I think it is, but I think it's also the having more data points to pull from. Like, I feel this is a bit of a stretch from patriotism to racism. However, when you look at racists, let's say middle America, I don't know, like it's because they've never left their hometown. You know what I mean? They've never left. They're only exposed to the people that look similar and act similar. And then if somebody comes in and acts differently, that's an enemy and that feels like a threat and they want to protect against that threat. And so I feel like with surfing, or just because you and I are so into surfing, we know who these characters are. We've come to love them. We've come to see their strengths and weaknesses and their challenges that they've overcome and all of that. And now we're compassionate to them. And it's very difficult to then just want them to lose strictly because of where they were born. You know what I mean?
And to continue my line of thought, like if you're a steeplechase fan, like a deep steeplechase fan, and you watch all the steeple, like maybe you're like, my point is that you probably know one or two international steeplechase competitors that are like the top. But you don't know like the way we know. Like we know WQS Brazilians and shit. You know what I mean? Like we know the number 300th Australian surfer. You know, like it's
Matt
just
Banting.
way more. Yeah, exactly. It's way more intermingled. You know, commingled.
Is there even a steeplechase or like a World Tour organization equivalent?
There should be. I watched it. It was fascinating.
They're chasing steeples around the globe. This
Have
is
you seen a
incredible.
steeple? These steeples are mean, man. They
I'm
can
gonna
turn on you.
I am gonna be researching this after we get off. I'm now invested.
Yeah.
Do you mind moving on from the Olympics? I've got to keep the timeline tight. I've got a
hold on.
Bathroom break already?
No, I'm still on the Olympics. Like my one story is about the Olympics, but I don't know if you saw this. Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed Native Hawaiian roots, an AP story by Sally Ho.
No, I haven't seen this.
It's an interesting article about Hawaiian natives and cultural appropriation. And I guess the basis of the story is the white Americans took surfing from Hawaii, made it their own, made a bunch of money on it, now have white Americans representing surfing in the Olympics in John and Carissa. There's no mention of apparently here, I'll read you a little bit here. The effort to take back surfing's narrative is why sovereignty activists applied for a Hawaii Kingdom national team to compete at the Olympic Games. Their long shot request hinges on the fact that they say there was no ratified treaty that ever formally dissolved Hawaii's autonomy. The United States annexed Hawaii in 1898 after the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy by US-backed forces in 1893. A statement from the International Olympic Committee, which has ignored the request for a Hawaiian surfing team, noted only that applicants must be an, quote, independent state recognized by the international community, end quote. And the article by Sally Ho goes on to talk about Duke Kahanamoku, an Olympic swimmer. He lobbied the IOC in 1912 about surfing to include it in the Stockholm Olympics. You know, I guess the gist of this article is, where's Hawaii in the Olympic Games?
I fully understand why she's making that argument, and this is an argument that comes up every once in a while. It becomes way too convoluted. The Olympics has to just go by what is currently recognized as individual countries. And when you get into this kind of backwater, even if it's right, like even if Hawaii was unjustly annexed back then, that's not for the Olympics to untangle now.
Do you think there should be any mention of the Duke Kahanamoku name at this Olympics by NBC? Should there be a backstory done about him?
Well, it depends how far back the commentators go with providing a contextual history for the viewer. And if they kind of want to start at the beginning, then yes, absolutely, he should be included. But I don't know how thorough they'll be.
Well, there's even some ill will from the Kahanamoku family. So there's a gentleman or a woman, I'm not sure, Didi Robello, I guess it's a woman, Didi Robello, a descendant of Kahanamoku, no, it's a guy, a descendant of Duke Kahanamoku, said none of his family members have been contacted to participate in any Olympic celebrations. He said that his grand uncle's name, Duke Kahanamoku, and Duke Kahanamoku's legacy are exploited, which has become a great source of pain for the family because the trademark rights to Kahanamoku name, to the Duke Kahanamoku name, are owned by outsiders. We're getting ripped off, Robello said, and it's embarrassing. So that's a whole nother sort of legal thing that has really, it's kind of like, dude, what do you want me to do? Like, do I need to sit here and feel guilty because there's some legal issue that I have no control over?
It's understandable that he would feel ripped off by that, but somebody within the family mismanaged that at some point. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
also not the Olympics problem. And maybe the Olympics is even aware of that issue and decided to sidestep it completely. And they don't want to objectify. They also don't want to infringe upon. And so they're just maybe not going to mention it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So.
Anyway,
Here's my other question though. If you follow the problem I have with a lot of this, I don't know, like
be careful.
political.
You want to make sure that you remain woke here. You're
Well, the
walking
problem I have
fine.
with woke culture then,
Yeah. Go
specifically,
ahead.
I'll attack the woke then,
Yeah.
is this logic is circuitous and you chase it. There's going to be a hypocrisy somewhere along the line of chasing this down. And it's a matter of when you get to it. And so I'll just start with that lady's article. Based on her criteria, can John be included as a Hawaiian then? Because his parents aren't Hawaiian, right? And I know John was raised in Hawaii. Was he born in Hawaii? And even if he was, does that qualify him because he doesn't have Hawaiian blood? You know what I mean?
Well, she tried to interview John and Carissa for the article, and she did interview. And when she basically kind of like pinned him in a corner, basically from a questioning standpoint, it was like, how do you feel about the cultural appropriation of Dukanumoku and Hawaiians? And she basically asked him a bunch of questions he wasn't prepared for, and I'm sure his PR team was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he just like went silent. Yeah. And Carissa Moore said, and I might be butchering the article a little bit. And Carissa Moore basically said, look, I wear the Hawaiian flag on my board. Like I wear it proudly.
Yeah.
And Tatiana Weston Webb went on to say something like, Hawaiians are represented, like,
yeah,
it just depends on how you look at it, I think is what
exactly. Yeah. And I guess what I'm getting at with the hypocrisy argument is, yeah, it depends on how you look at it. So that woman is making maybe a justified claim, but she's still only looking at it through a very narrow lens, and an argument. And I just made an argument against John being, quote, Hawaiian, but maybe his local community on the North Shore would be like, hey, we've welcomed him as family, and now he's ingrained in our roots and he is Hawaiian. We are all about family, and we've welcomed him and his family, and now they're part of a family. It doesn't matter how long they've been, you know what I mean? So you could look at it any given way, and two different neighbors will tell you different versions of how they feel about it. So,
well, I mean, at the end of the day, from like a purely capitalist standpoint, which this article goes into a little bit, there's no doubt that the people that run the surf industry are not from Hawaiian descendants. And I think that's where they're a little disappointed, that this thing has developed into a massive multi-billion-dollar industry, and Hawaiians aren't necessarily like the captains of any of the industries, like there's, and
it's a sociological discussion. It's a way bigger discussion.
Oh yeah.
Look, yeah, I mean, it's not like they've been exiled from the industry or kept out, from the industry. And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a much bigger problem.
Oh, it's a huge thing that's beyond the, even though we're experts, it's beyond even our expertise.
So I've got a question that you are an expert about that a listener would like you to chime in on.
Yeah.
So Dave, I've been questioning lately, what's the proper etiquette for communication with a shaper after ordering a board for them? We all know how busy shapers are. You already see where this is going. I get it, but what do you think the appropriate time is for checking in for when your board is going to be finished, if you should check in with them at all? Or do I just wait it out until it shows up on my doorstep? Say, for instance, I ordered a board 6 months ago. Is it cool to send an email asking for an update? Granted, I know this is a mystery and there are still finite situational variables, but I'm struggling because I want my board and I really don't want to just be that, but I also don't really want to be an annoying customer.
Well, this is a great question, and each situation is different, right? I think the first thing you need to do is right up front when you order a board, be direct and and demand transparency regarding the time frame, and ask them, when is it a good time to check in, or will you be reaching out to me to let me know that the board's now in the sanding process? Like, be upfront about it. And if there's a shaper that's like prickly about that, I'd move away. There's a million friggin' shapers that are good business people who'll be like, here's the deal, I got to be honest with you right now, you're looking at 12 weeks, maybe more. And it's just, and they'll explain the situation. And so my personal thing, and I'm not antsy for whenever I get my board. I mean, you might remember a while ago, Smith Shapes is like, hey, we want to get you a board under your feet. I've never seen that board, and I doubt I will. And I'm sure it just fell through the cracks, and I'm cool with that, whatever, but so for me, I guess what I'm getting at is that I just order a board, and if it shows up, great. If it doesn't, great.
Yeah, because you're in a very different position though. But your advice, I think, is salient. Be clear about your expectations and your communication. And I would also add to that a lot of shapers I know, and maybe people in general, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you are like you just explained you are, where, hey, I'll just place an order and maybe I get it, maybe I won't, that order card tends to never get pushed to the top of the pile. But the guy who says, all right, you said 12 weeks. Okay, I'll be calling you in 8 weeks just to check on the progress of it. That guy will get probably his board in the 12-week time.
Yeah. Now this gentleman, he said he's been waiting 6 months.
He said it was, yeah, I would agree that is an issue. He used it as a hypothetical. He said, say for instance, if you ordered a board 6 months ago, so maybe
6 months is like you're getting ripped off. Like 6 months, at the 6 months mark, that guy cashed your check and maybe hasn't even shaped your board yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, there are those types out there,
Yeah.
Because shapers are sort of hand to mouth. It's a tough profession to be in. Cash flow is an issue, and things get behind and things get ahead of them, and they're struggling to make it happen. That doesn't mean it's okay. I'm just saying that happens.
It happens.
Happened to me. It's happened to you. It happens to people.
I'd be diligent is the point. Clear with communication and diligent. But 6 months.
Is that your shaper chiming in to tell you your board's done? Is that Roger Hines going, dude, your 5th board is ready? That guy pumps out boards. Oh yeah, I can hear people chiming in.
Sorry about that. I'll try to put it on
probably
something padded.
Lauren going, you know what? Wash your hair, dude.
Feed the dog.
I see stuff in your hair. There's like little specks in your hair right now. There is. I swear to God, those
are natural highlights.
This is a little dot. Like
those are natural highlights, dude.
You see that thing in the top?
In the sun.
Would be the top right, kind of where your part is. No, you just
it's
still there. It's still there. Dude, it's
I don't know what you're talking about. I can't see it.
No, like right at the top of this.
I'm not playing this game with you.
Okay.
I feel like you're just messing with me. Speaking of surfboard shapers, yet another one passes this week. It's been a crazy year of icons passing. Rich Harbour.
Yeah.
Harbour Surfboards, Seal Beach, California, a mere 4 miles from where I sit this very moment. One of the very, very first surf shops that I ever spent time in when I was young. Rich Harbour passed away this past Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. He lived a long, full life, but and it's very sad, And he was an absolute icon of foam, an absolute legend, and a guy who touched a lot of California surfers and beyond. Sam George has written a great piece on Surfline.
Yeah. So Rich, the phrase legend gets passed around way too frequently, of course, but Rich is legit. And he influenced not only surfers, but so many shapers in Southern California, and was very humble, ran a solid business, had tremendous kind of cultural kind of, influence, I guess is the best way to put it, in the area and beyond. That Harbour Surfboards logo is so iconic. And I mean, we think of international surf brands logos, those are iconic and recognizable around the world. But think of a more iconic one from a tiny single individual surf shop. I mean, that surf shop is barely 1,000 feet. And that logo is kind of recognizable from around the world.
No, it is. It is an international logo, and a lot of that just has to do with how how consistent Rich Harbour was. I mean, same shop, same shaper, same place for whatever it was, 60, 70 years. I mean, he was in the same scene. Somebody else mentioned, I think the Surfing Heritage and Culture Center mentioned that he is the last original shop with the original factory behind the shop with the original surf shop at the same place in the world. There's no other of, even how up in Santa Cruz moved a few times from a couple addresses in Santa Cruz, like, a couple blocks away here or there. He's been in that same Main Street building for, Rich Harbour has been for forever. And what a bunch of cool boards. I mean, the trestle special, Mike Marshall, who was a shaper for Rich Harbour, who made a lot of trestle specials. We of course have the Mike Marshall Perpetual Trophy at the boardroom show that we give to the winner of the Icons of Foam Shape Off, which is, an indirect homage to Rich Harbour. And
and talking, a lot of those boards are up in the rafters and at Harbour Surfboards today, so you can walk in there and kind of see a lot of that history just on display. But yeah, that shaping bay is still back there. You walk in there and you can smell foam dust. It's pretty iconic. So Rich Harbour, from Matt Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing, Rich Harbour got a surfboard on his 16th birthday. 2 months later, the board was stolen, and Harbour broke and built one from scratch. In 1962, after making and selling dozens of boards out of the family garage, Harbour dropped out of college to open Harbour Surfboards in Seal Beach, just north of Huntington. I got booted out of my parents' garage, he later admitted, when his parents got a yellow Camaro and Rich dripped resin on it. Because Harbour was just 18, his father had to co-sign the business license. His mother, Alice, kept the books, as she did for 33 years. And Steve Pesman wrote about Rich Harbour that he was a hardworking blue-collar board maker. The boards were clean and business was good. Rich was 77 on Sunday when he passed away. And the first board he ever shaped was when he was 16. The final board that he shaped was in 2019. And he numbered every single one of them. And the final board he shaped was number 32,680.
Wow. That's quite a legacy he's left behind in surfboards. And, my heart goes out to the Harbour family, and it's just a sad deal. And you're right. We've lost a lot of legendary shapers here. They're getting that whole 60s, 70s era guys are getting to that age,
Yeah. Well, I did a podcast with Rich Harbour back in 2013. I feel like it was episode number 13. I'm gonna re-listen to it and maybe recut it, maybe add some other stuff to it and publish it in the next week or two. But I haven't listened to it in 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
So, but he was totally lucid, and I remember having a, enjoying it at the time.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you want to? There's a couple of online fights this week. Do you have any commentary on Kenvin versus Joel, or Stab versus the whole nation of Brazil?
You know what? The Kenvin versus Joel thing, I don't have the energy for it. To me, it's kind of like, it's none of my business, really.
I've got a question for you then about it, because I felt the same way, where it felt ugly,
Yeah.
It's like pops up and they're arguing about a business deal and like, you owe me money. Oh, I don't owe you money. You owe.
Yeah.
So Joel commented on one of Kenvin's posts, but then the reason it became blown up is because Kenvin screenshotted that and put Joel's comment as his main post. And then, of course, all the fighting ensued underneath that, basically saying Joel rhymes with troll. My question to you is, are they both self-aware enough to just kind of be doing this to for clicks, for views, to drum up interest. Like, I think Joel does kind of go online and just throw barbs around and get in fights with everybody. And it's kind of entertaining, to be perfectly honest. But I'm wondering if Kenvin saw that as an opportunity to kind of just, let's get into headlines this week. Let's work
Well,
the
I don't
algorithm.
know. I don't know. I can't speak for that. You know, they're both San Diego legends, and I'm acquaintances with both of them, and I like both of them, and I don't want to get in the middle of it. It's really none of my business, to be honest with you. And frankly, I'm way too busy to dive into the weeds on getting involved in it. You know, it's to me, it's something you turn and you walk the other way. And
What about, did you track the Stab versus Brazil thing in the last 2 days?
but that interests me. What's going on there?
So they wrote an article. Actually, they had a freelancer, a guy who's contributed articles. His name's Steve Elaine. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I know that he's a Brazilian
Alon?
guy, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he's the former editor of one of the magazines in Brazil.
He is a longtime Brazilian surf journalist and writer,
Yeah,
for sure.
right. Yeah.
And so he wrote an article. He pitched it to Stab. They approved it, and then he wrote it, and they published it. And it was about, the headline was, is Brazilian dominance bad for the WSL? And it kind of analyzed the strengths and the weaknesses of their kind of economy and support of the industry, or lack thereof. And so if Brazilians are dominating, you know, does that limit the amount of growth that professional surfing can have, let's say, outside of Brazil? It was an analysis of that. And of course, because people don't read the article itself, they were enraged by the title and blew up. So I think it was actually a premium article on Stab. So maybe that's why people didn't read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but
was it in Brazilian, by the way? Because I looked at
no,
it.
not until now.
Because I saw it in Brazilian. I'm like, well, I don't read Portuguese, so I can't click on that. I wanted to, but anyway.
It was originally in English.
Okay.
And so then they posted the story on Instagram and to advertise it, right?
Yeah.
And the Instagram feed blew up with Brazilians calling them racist, essentially. So Stab then went through the effort of having that article and the rebuttal, or the apology all translated into Portuguese, and posting the full Portuguese articles on their website in the last 48 hours. And
okay,
basically,
hold on for just a sec, because I want to get into this a little bit.
Okay.
But I have to take a break. My dog's barking. Hold on.
Sure. We didn't hear that.
Okay, I got the dog sorted out.
Good work. It's weird. We never heard a bark.
He's got a whimper. It's very soft.
Nice of you to quell him. So quell his anxieties. So Stab printed the rebuttal and the apology in Portuguese and all that sort of stuff. They were never in the wrong. I'm going into my opinion now. I've given you the kind of facts.
Yeah.
Stab, the article was not racist. It might have been the headline might have been clickbaity, and that's why rage ensued on Instagram, because they couldn't actually go and read the article if they didn't have a premium membership. But my problem with this is that Stab's retraction and apology was completely unnecessary. And them posting it in Portuguese, I am totally fine with. And by the way, they've now made the article non-premium, and they made the Portuguese version of it also non-premium, so everybody can read it. Nobody will. Ultimately, whoever was screaming at them online is not going to now go click over and be like, oh, okay, this was a very rational, level-headed article with a thorough analysis. And I apologize for the rage that I spewed on Instagram 2 days ago. That'll never happen. And so my opinion on this is, Stab, don't apologize. You are in the right. You did nothing wrong. And the apology almost just makes you look weak. And it's only, again, you're trying to placate somebody who just wants to be enraged online anyways. They're never going to come back and read the apology or the actual article.
Well, I can't find the article in English anywhere. I'm on their site. Can you give me just a brief summary of what the original article stated? Or is it too, it looks like a long article.
Yeah, it is a long article, but it's what I kind of originally said, which is, the major surf brands don't do a lot of commerce in Brazil, and there's not a lot of Brazilian surf brands that support mainstream surfing or prop it up in any way. So is the sheer dominance by Brazilian surfers going to translate to more audience for the, WSL, or is it going to translate to commerce for surfing as a whole? Whereas you can make arguments that that does happen in the USA and in Australia. Companies that thrive off of the promotion that they receive from the WSL end up, buying sponsorships and advertising and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
but it wasn't arguing that actually is true or that happens. It actually argues that, I wouldn't say it argues for it, but it makes a case that Brazilian dominance could be a good thing for surfing.
Yeah, I'm reading. I found it in English now, and to me, it reads like a well-researched article you'd find in like the Financial Times of London or something. Like I haven't read the whole thing,
and it's not racist in any way, and it is stating a conversation that takes place in the surf industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you and I have had this conversation many times. Like, is that like, does this benefit the WSL? Like, where's the money coming from? Basically, this is a question of where's the money coming from.
Stab was not wrong in posting the article, nor were they racist. They're
soft.
Yeah, my problem with them is their response to it is kind of trying to placate everybody when the people who are screaming at them missed the point entirely, and B, won't accept the apology.
Yeah, I think this almost needs like you and I to go through this point by point.
It's not worth it. It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the article, go to Stab and read the article. It's not worth defending the article. The article's totally fine. But I felt this way, by the way, about Kenvin versus Joel as well, which is if their ambition, either one of them or both of them, was to kind of just steal the headlines for the week, it's a bad look. It's just a bad look. The optics are bad. Like getting down and fighting like this is just, it's not, I mean, you do steal the headlines, but it kind of tarnishes both of their legacies in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
One of the comments on this, one of the comments is pretty funny. It says, just one sentence. It says, never forget that Guillermo Hurdy wore his leash on his front foot.
Less drag.
Just a rant. Oh yeah, less drag for life. This seems like a funny comment. That's all.
Brendan Buckley's comment. Big power surfer.
Oh, is that Brendan Buckley? Yeah.
Yeah. He is funny.
I don't know who these guys are, but it's funny.
He's funny. By the way, the Challenger Series for the WSL has been revealed. This is, of course, the new tier of the QS, the upper echelon.
Yes.
So this is a scenario where the Challenger Series takes place after the main season.
Right. This is our Jack Robinson scenario, basically.
So
this is where Jack Robinson scenario.
This is where if you have a bad performance as a world-class surfer on the CT throughout a season, you can still re-qualify for next season's CT through this Challenger Series. So it is still a qualifying tier, but it's the upper tier, and you can't gain access to that upper tier unless you garner enough points through your regionals or on the CT, I presume.
So where are these events?
So these events just were released. It's an abbreviated year, of course, because of COVID. There's 4 events. It's Huntington Beach, Ericeira, Portugal, Hossegor, France, and Haleiwa, Hawaii.
Okay. So there's two events there, the back half that Jack could presumably do well in if the waves are 6 feet or bigger.
Sunset is missing.
And the
It's
first
tradition.
two are problems for Jack Robinson.
Yeah. The I'm okay. I like the structure. I like the format of the season, with this kind of being separate from,
Yeah.
but the venues, unfortunately, are not diverse and thorough enough to really kind of give somebody a go. And again, sunset missing is problematic, and also just historically, like, it's always been there, So the field, by the way, the Challenger field will be made up of 96 men and 64 women. Made
Hold
up
on.
of.
So Sunset's not on the thing because it's going to be on the CT.
Oh, is it?
Well, I'm just assuming. I'm thinking to myself, is there a Triple Crown? I'll leave a Sunset and Pipe. Is the Triple Crown just gone? Like, did that just disappear?
We have
I bet if it does disappear, that's what happens. It just disappears. Like, everyone just kind of goes, forget it ever happened. And you're like, what happened to that thing? Yeah. But they did do the virtual Triple Crown. But my point is that you can only get, probably, I'm assuming, because permits are tough in Hawaii, you can only get one. Because there's other ones like, so if you can only get one, they're probably holding it for the CT, because I thought before COVID, Sunset was on the CT.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, that doesn't mean that they're just going to automatically add it back next time.
Yeah.
This stuff, and even when they sign these, they have a press release that there's a 3-year contract. I mean, that's not worth the paper that it's written on. You know what I mean? That stuff changes every single time.
Yeah.
So I have zero faith, and I'd love to see it, and I hope that it is, but I have zero faith.
Even now, you were telling me about the format for these things, like how many people qualify. This is where I don't really care. Like, this is like where you're like, I don't watch the ISA because there's just too much shit in the weeds. Like, but go ahead. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
how many people qualify? I don't give a shit. I just want to know, when are the finals? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, even the numbers are pretty vast. Like, there's 96 men, 64 women. It's a giant competition. Yeah. It's made up of 34 men and 17 women from the CT. So all of the CT has initial entree into these Challenger Series events. And then 58 men and 44 women that are allocated by, of course, the WSL regions.
Why would you let the top 20 CT surfers surf in it and take 20 spots away from potentials? Dude, the only reason could be the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
The Vans Triple Crown. I mean, I don't understand that.
Yeah, nor do I.
Or it's like the local Brazilian or French communities are like, we want our French stars at these events. So, Michelle Perez needs to be in this event, or what, you know what I mean? Like, that's the other side of it.
They have 2 men and women's wild cards, and then also 2 men and women's junior wild cards get entry as well. So they could utilize those for that.
Yeah. That's weird that they would. Don't you find that to be strange?
Yeah.
What's the upside for a top 20 CT guy that's already qualified to surf in a qualifying event?
Other than just staying sharp in the off season, there probably is no reason, and most probably won't surf in these events, which will give more access to the regional kind of people.
They just
to get
felt
bumped
like
up.
they had to offer that, though.
Maybe, yeah, just to make it completely uniform. I've got must-see moment and a Duke and a Kook actually this week, Scott.
Yeah, let's hear all 3 of yours.
100-Foot Wave is a new documentary series that I'm going to recommend everybody watching this Sunday night. It premieres on HBO. I'm interviewing Garrett McNamara, who is the star of this series. And so they sent me the first 4 episodes, which I've already watched. And I'm recommending people watch it. It premieres on HBO Sunday night, July 18th. And they're 1 hour. It's a documentary series, and they're 1 hour bits, 1 hour episodes. And gosh, it's very well done. We kind of run into this every once in a while, but when you get outside professional filmmakers telling a surfing story, they kind of do a better job than you and I do, or than people under the microscope.
Yeah.
Looking under the microscope.
Yeah, that's true, huh? They don't have the paranoia. They're just like, whatever, let's just tell the story. I don't care. I'm out of here. I'll tell the story and leave. I'll go
I
to
also
India and tell a
feel
story on India.
we tend to rehash the same themes over and over. Let's talk about Andy Irons again, or whatever. And there was a bunch of stuff, not one or two, but like dozens of things in this documentary series that were brand new to me, like important innovations in big wave development, whether methods or safety precautions or an actual device that Garrett invented, like all of these kind of important cornerstones that I knew nothing about. I had never heard a lot of these stories before. And Garrett has the footage, archival footage, because he's been shooting everything forever, and provided all of that to the filmmakers, and the filmmakers utilize that, show you all the different angles, interview all the different people involved. And it's like, man, this is fascinating. Really, really good.
Are there any contrarians in this documentary?
Yeah, there's a couple of conflicts. I wouldn't say there's necessary contrarians. I think the biggest kind of contrarian theme is the fact that Garrett exists in the periphery of the surf industry. So it's like Garrett doing all of these amazing things, winning 8 Guinness World Records, and the surf industry just kind of glancing over from afar and being like, oh, sweet, ESPN will run the clip. Good for you, Garrett. And you'll find sponsorship somewhere. Good for you. Keep going, like that is kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting, huh? There's just, for whatever reason, decision makers in the industry were just like, no, you know what? You could slay a 100-foot beast while riding a 100-foot wave, and we're still not going to give you any attention.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, I was trying to think about it on my own, and I'm wondering if it's just because that what he's doing is just not relatable to what I'm doing. And so it almost feels like, oh, he's doing a different sport. Somebody else will cover it.
Well, I look at it like this, like he basically paved the way for what Kai Lenny and other guys are doing.
Totally.
Are we paying attention to what Kai Lenny's doing?
Now we are, yeah.
Yeah. And why is that? So there's a lot of things
forcing it in our face on Instagram and everything.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know that I would be otherwise.
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole time. I'm looking forward to seeing this.
It's good. It's really well done. I'm glad to see it going mainstream,
Yeah.
In terms of like The Ultimate Surfer on ABC, or the surfing in the Olympics, or this going mainstream, this makes the most sense to me. This feels the most authentic. This feels like an actual story, It's not manufactured. It's significant achievement being documented. Did you have another thought on that, or should I go
Well,
on?
I'm just wondering, is it the opinion of the documentary that Garrett McNamara has ridden the largest wave ever?
It's documenting his quest. Yes, he has ridden the biggest waves ever, but this is a
According
quest.
to who?
Guinness Book.
Yeah, but how does that happen? In other words, if I ride a 110-foot wave instead of a 100-foot wave, but I don't submit it to the Guinness Book, I'm not going to be the Guinness Book. So it's, I'm not doubting that Garrett hasn't, I'm not questioning it. My whole thing is like, why are we letting the Guinness Book be the one that tells us who's ridden the biggest wave?
Well, you need some sort of agreed upon qualifying system.
Well, how about the XXL, like the WSL Big Wave Awards?
We'll let them decide.
Who has ridden the biggest wave? Is it Garrett, or is it Mike Parsons, or is
currently I don't know.
Gabby? Is it a girl? Like
I think it's still Garrett.
Are some of these waves that were ridden this year, or at the most macking Nasri, were those even thrown into the Guinness fold, or did somebody go, that's too much? Because it's my understanding that qualifying for the Guinness Book of World Records is quite a pain in the ass administratively.
Yeah. So by the way,
this write it off. People go, nah. I know. We know it was a huge wave.
Yeah. This documentary series is following his quest to ride the 100-foot wave. So I'm not going to reveal whether or not he's done it yet.
I think it's a good question. Like, who has ridden the biggest wave? And I'm sure that Guinness has their people, and I'm sure that the WSL has their people, and I'm sure that there's other filmmakers or whoever, tow teams, that are like, no, we think it was this guy. And I think that's the interesting documentary.
Yeah.
Who actually has ridden the biggest wave?
I'm giving it to Garrett, and Garrett's giving it to Garrett.
Well, that's fine. And maybe it was Garrett, but I just think that that's why I asked if there's contrarians, because anytime you start talking about who rode the biggest wave, there's you're going to get Bill Sharp raising his eyebrows. You're going to get,
He's in it.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, and so I just want to know, is everyone in agreement? And if they're in agreement, why do we need Guinness?
Nobody's even in agreement on how to measure a wave.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes for a great documentary.
My Duke is hometown hero, a local announcer, DJ, and broadcaster, Brad J. from Santa Barbara, will be the voice heard by millions in a few weeks, as he takes up the mic for the first ever Olympic surfing competition in Japan. Brad J. has been involved in surfing and skateboarding his entire life since he first started bombing hills around Santa Barbara at the age of 6. This isn't his first time calling an Olympic event, however. He lost his job as a local DJ in 1999, and it led him to a point where he wanted to seek new options. And he was watching an X Games event, and he's like, gosh, I've got these DJ, and again, not DJing at a party, but like a DJ on-air radio DJ. And so he's watching the X Games. He's like, dude, I know these sports really well, and I could absolutely be on the mic and doing commentary for him. So he started out with the X Games, kind of worked his way around through action sports. Then he found himself calling the Clippers and the Dodgers games. And now he's being called up and he actually got called up into the Winter Olympics via his X Games experience, and did some Red Bull Signature Series stuff. But now he will be calling surfing for the first time ever in the Olympics, extending his reach to 171 countries. Brad J.
Wow, good for him. I also saw on Instagram that Chris Cote was going to Tokyo to call the Olympics.
Amazing. Good job for Chris.
Yeah,
no, I didn't see that.
So I wonder if Brad and Chris are teaming up.
Maybe.
Brad does the play-by-play and Chris does the color, or vice versa.
Don't know, but that's a huge boon for Chris. Good for him.
Yeah.
My kook of the week is going to be, it's really adding insult to injury, literally. Poopies. Jamie O'Brien's former fall guy from his vlogs. I don't follow him close enough to understand what the falling out ever was, but apparently he's not working with Jamie anymore. But he's been called up by the Jackass crew for Shark Week. So this week is Shark Week on Discovery Channel, and the Jackass crew, of course, does stunts, and Poopies was doing the stunts for Jamie O'Brien. Again, the fall guy, just like, hey, here's something we conceived of that nobody has the balls to do. Hey, Poopies, you do it. And he did it, and he's developed quite a bit of celebrity off of it, enough to be now on international mainstream cable. And apparently they poured chum on him and threw him off a boat into shark-infested waters.
Oh, they didn't throw him off. They didn't throw him off.
Oh, was he skiing behind it?
Yeah, he was ski jumping over the shark area.
Trying to literally jump a shark.
Recreating the Fonzie Happy Days episode where Fonzie jumped over a shark.
And ends up getting his hand bitten by a shark. He would have bled out if they didn't have professional medical dive team on hand and got to him immediately. But he did have to go into surgery to reattach the hand and the tendons and 2 major arteries.
Well, that's gnarly. I actually watched the footage of this yesterday. I got caught up in the clickbait of it all. And I'm glad he's getting better. I'm glad he's getting his arm back together, and that it wasn't worse, obviously, right? But yeah, I mean, shit's gonna happen,
It's a lot of ways to make a living, Scott.
There are. That's the call you don't want to take. Hey, we're from Jackass. We'd like to call you up for Shark Week. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and then right as you're hanging up, they say the number of the price on the paycheck, and all of a sudden the phone comes back to your ear.
Well, so was he your kook and Duke, or was he both of us?
He's the kook.
That's gnarly.
I know it's gnarly to even call him a kook, because again, adding insult to injury, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't make the rules, Scott. I just call the plays.
Well, let me tell you about the Boardroom Surfboard Show presented by US Blanks. It's coming up September 25th and 26th in little bit more than 2 months here, we're going to be opening doors to the surfboard manufacturing industry and consumers, and it's going to be a heck of a gathering. We're very excited about it. We're honoring Pat Rawson, of course, in the Icons of Foam Shape Off. We've got 8 shapers competing in honor of Pat's legacy as one of the greatest shapers ever. And we've got a lot of other fun stuff, including Best in Show. There's going to be an incredible exhibit with all of the Best in Show surfboards. Of course, the board shaper talks, discussions and seminars. We got Fred Hemmings coming in. We've got some great talks that Chris Morrow's putting together. We've got a resin and art exhibit. We've got RevChem and Douglas Surf Company doing a how it's made exhibit. And of course, a hall filled with incredible surfboards, wetsuits, hard goods from the surf manufacturing industry.
Always a great place to connect with listeners in person too.
Absolutely. Come say hi to David and I.
David, an endless stream.
David has Surf Splendor has a booth. So that's good. Is Chaz going to be there?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet. But if he's available, I'll try to get him to come by and sign some books.
Who else? Don't you have some East Coast guys under your umbrella? Ain't that swell or no? Just
Tyler, the Brewer brother.
Yeah, Tyler.
Tyler Brewer.
Don't they have a historically based podcast?
Yes, they do Sunday Joint, which is based off of Matt Warshaw's Sunday newsletter that he sends every week. Yeah, so they recap that and go deep. Actually, go much deeper.
Are they going to show up? They should come out.
I'll talk to him. I'll ask him if he can.
I would love for them to come out.
The Brewer brothers.
Yeah. So there's that, and of course, then we also have the California Gold Surf Auction, which ends a week after on October 2nd. And so we're procuring, oh my God, do we have some insane boards for this auction? It's going to be incredible.
Sweet.
Yeah. So anyway, we got all that going on. And of course, the Headstock Guitar Lovers Festival taking place November 6th and 7th. If you love guitars, you're going to want to check that out in San Diego, November 6th and 7th, a guitar show.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right, Scott, great show.
Great show, bros. Until next time, adios and aloha.